on Saturday night, and then tonight it got back into the schoolyard. Little Marco and Big Donald. What's the point of that? Anyway, joining me right now is former U.S. Marine and talk show host Montel Williams, and he's a supporter of John Kasich. Well, congratulations. I think, at least among our very small but informed circle of people here, we think he did great. Your guy.
Chris, I'm telling you, I think across the country you're seeing a lot of people, whether they be pundits or whether they be other politicians in the Republican Party, who are all coming out themselves behind John Kasich. I think what he did was very clear. It's the same thing he did in Houston, but we didn't give him as much credit that he needed from that performance then. Tonight, he nailed it. In every single case, did you notice not once did either Cruz or Rubio or even Donald Trump question anything that came out of John Kasich's mouth? And so that's one of those things you got to really take a look back at this entire debate. Every time he spoke, they all looked at him, and then they went on to beat each other up because there was nothing they could say. I do have to make one point, though, a really important one. And this is, again, just listening to what Donald Trump had to say. When he talks about certain things, I stay out of the conversation. But when he starts saying that he's going to give our U.S. soldiers illegal orders and expect them to follow them, I want him to go back and look at history at things like the My Lai massacre in Vietnam and other times when soldiers were, when they know unequivocally that they have been given an unlawful order, if they follow it, that does not get them out of the cases that he claims he can win, because that's called court-martial and that's called Leavenworth for life. So he's got to understand that there's things that he's talking about, and I wish the American public could see it also. He wants to be the commander-in-chief. These people who are at these rallies for them will be some of the people he sends off to fight. And when he sends them off and tells them to do things illegally, they will be held accountable. So we got to get some help behind him. I think some of these generals and admirals that are supposedly talking to him, I think they need to smack him upside the back of the head tonight and say, don't ever say that again.
Well, the question I have, and you're a fighting man, and thanks for your service, the whole question of killing their families, it's sort of so Middle Eastern, if not medieval, going back and looking for where their families are. You know, Rudy, it sounds like mob talk at best.
It's called war crime, and again, if we're going to put somebody in office as a commander-in-chief, you want people to stand up and say, I support, the officers, those appointed over me. Well, they have to give them lawful orders. And when the commander-in-chief starts with illegal orders, you just set up another hate. You set up, war crimes from here to eternity. So, again, he claims he's talking to generals, admirals. I don't know one general or admiral in this country who would support forcing soldiers to support an unlawful order, knowing that that will lead them to court-martial and also probably international tribunal.
Let me go back to you on the question of John Kasich. We're looking next. Let's go. You know the schedule ahead. It's Michigan next Tuesday, coming up fast. A big state, a moderate state politically. It's not a right-wing state by any means, like Pennsylvania. We're going after that. We're going to go to Ohio, John Kasich's home turf. We're going to go to Florida that same night, and Illinois, another moderate Republican state. What can he do that day? He can win Ohio.
Florida, he may not do well in. Ohio, I think he's gotten. And, don't count him out for Michigan. I think people tonight are going to be looking at what he did. They're going to think back on it, and they're going to recognize you had 3 children playing in the corner trying to steal each other's marbles, and you had one person standing in the middle of the playground saying, hey, while they do that, let me explain to you how we're going to put up all the things and get this playground back together again. So you had the adult out there, and I think that's going to reverberate. And I really
when you say something like that, Montel, I really do think back to when I played marbles, and we would have these coffee cans, these tin cans, and we'd have our marbles in it, and we'd have some big ones. Remember the big ones?
Yeah, how about the big? We called them the hugies. And what happened when one of the other kids tried to steal your big marble? You smacked them upside the back of the head. That's what was going over there.
I wonder how many people grew up the right way like you and I did. Anyway, thank you, Montel Williams.
Have a good one.
Join me right now.